I had an opportunity last week to explore an exercise that was an invitation into felt sense awareness through an adaptation of 6 steps of focusing, which is based on Gendlin's work. And the practitioner that introduced this idea is Jan Windhall. And the really interesting thing about this was when it was presented as a sequence and the kind of logic of it explained, there was something there that was not quite fully connecting in my understanding, and there was an invitation to bring that exercise into a shared space with the opportunity for someone else to be present there as a witness, but then also kind of plugging into that loop in terms of the part of it which is about clarifying really, and offering a quality of reflection which is about saying, I've heard you say this, and kind of repeating actually what somebody has described in this exploration of identifying a feeling, trying to articulate it, name it, identify where it is in the body, if it has anything that it wants to say, and pulling on that thread, following that inquiry, and if there's capacity there, allowing for information or answers to emerge as a part of that exploration. And I'm obviously paraphrasing the kind of points of that sequence just to speak more generally around it. But what was really interesting about having someone else there offering this check-in point in a way, where you've been naming and sharing these things, and someone then says, you've described this sensation in your chest, a quality of tightness, possibly anxiety, and this particular stage is called resonance. So I was able to understand at that moment, through my response to what that person reflected to me, using my words, mirroring my body language and my energy and my tone of voice. And immediately it clicked of, oh, this is not anxiety at all. This is grief. And it was so clear. It was like a kind of lightning bolt moment of clarity. Just hearing someone repeat and articulate what you've said, and it could have gone the other way. It could have been affirming and clarifying and like, yes, that is what I mean. But there was just something in the intonation, in the voice, and in the way that energy felt when I was reflecting it back to, what is my body actually telling me, and what am I sensing and feeling into right now, that it was, this is grief. And I thought that was really interesting, because the process that then came on from that, in terms of meeting that and being willing to explore it a little, was that the mind had very quickly stepped in to categorize this. It was a sensation of tightness, like a belt running across the chest. And the mind was like, yeah, that's anxiety. But when I actually stopped to ask my body what it was, and had established that connection and capacity to receive without judgment, and without analysis, actually, that was very much coming from that mind space, it was clear. And it was just in that moment of acknowledgement that things were able to actually shift, because as soon as that sensation felt that it had been recognized and acknowledged, there was then this swelling of the sensation of expansion in the chest, and then feeling that energy rising up in the eyes, kind of watering, and the body almost saying, yes, actually, this is a difficult thing to hold on to. Holding on to it is actually what is causing tightness, discomfort, creating a kind of pressure or a sense that there's not a full breath, a radiant breath available, that the capacity is limited because of this kind of weight there. And allowing then there to be a release, and the shift physiologically was huge. There was then this reflex, this natural reflex to bring in a breath that is actually unburdened, and it's like that relief that you get after doing something strenuous or taking off, a really heavy rucksack, and then you're able to take a more nourishing, energizing breath than you had previously. And when you combine that with a recognized shift in your emotional state as well, there's something very powerful about that, because it's an inside out experience, and it kind of touches and activates all these other parts of your awareness, because grief as a subject is massive, and it's kind of like the image of the iceberg. There's this visible part, and then there's this invisible part. So I feel like this experience spoke to that, or illustrated that really well. And the reminder or takeaway from that for me was just about not the mind wanting to step in and to problem solve and examine and challenge and question and scrutinize and kind of work out, like, what is the root of this? Where has this come from? Whereas the body is just saying, this is not something that is helpful for me to hold on to any longer, because holding on to it is kind of creating this tightness and this gripping, and the release that comes, when you have given yourself permission to soften. There's layers to that, actually. There's an immediate relief, but there's also layers, because grief is something that we can be tinged by, for a very long time, and it goes through lots of different stages as well. Sometimes it's latent, sometimes something activates it and it pops up into your kind of conscious awareness again. And yeah, it's fitting for this time of year to kind of feel like that space to access, moving into a space to actually maybe actively explore some grief work does feel, that kind of complements the season that we're in, and also just acknowledging actually that it's often these are the things that we don't name with others, because we are aware of the impact that they have, and we also don't have control over how others will respond to a sharing or disclosure around something like that. So in this instance, I felt very grateful that I was able to have a space held and witnessed by someone who is not afraid of stepping into that territory, or naming grief, actually, allowing it to say hello and be acknowledged, and not then trying to wrap it up neatly in a box, and just letting it be present and find its own pathway of release, because actually we do have that capacity, that instinct, if we are not placing restrictions or barriers or blocks in the way. And obviously it's a tricky one, because it comes back again to capacity. So, going into that exercise, the invitation really was to start from a grounded place and to establish some space, so that you could then start to dialogue with the body and kind of say, okay, is there anything that is emerging that feels like it is in the way of me being connected and being totally present, or feeling safe or feeling at ease? That unique flavor will be specific to the individual and what the intention is going in, but that was the invitation, and I did not have in my mind a sense of, like, grief is going to be something that will come up, or so to then feel that actually I think I've got available resource to meet that right now, and to kind of take its hand and let it, let myself go with it. That felt okay. But on a different day, a different time, different energy levels, that might not be the case. So even if there's a sense from what I'm sharing here of, this sounds really interesting as an exercise to explore, I'll put some information to the 6 steps of focusing and Felt Sense Polyvagal Theory, or the Felt Sense Polyvagal Model, so that you can do a bit of research yourself, because I think that's always an important thing to consider of, everything is an invitation, but then what resource do you have in the event that something does emerge, material, emotional sensations, memory, anything like that kind of takes you by surprise, maybe, that you've got some tools already that you practice with and explore that are anchors to help you to stay grounded or to come back to the breath or to come back to something tangible that you feel like, okay, I can affect that. I can guide myself back to a sense of safe enough, or something that is stable enough in that moment if you feel that, it is bigger than you, or that it's pulling you into territory that you don't feel resourced for that day. And that's fine. I think it's really good to acknowledge limitation, not as a kind of failure, but just to see then, actually, okay, maybe I need a bit more support or development in this area, so that I can work with that material again or explore that subject. But yeah, it was really a powerful experience for me, and I felt like it would be a good opportunity to bring some reflections through from that, now that I've had several days on the other side of that, just to kind of let that land. I've done a bit of writing on it, and yeah, I feel like I understand the process and the exercise much better with having that other individual there and that mirror there, and also just a reminder about how powerful it is to have someone else witness you in any kind of process, but particularly one that is leaning towards that therapeutic territory, just being witnessed in your own healing and your own medicine. There's something very affirming and very powerful about that, so that felt really worth to mention. But as I say, I'll put some information in the comments, in the description below, and yeah, feel free to do your own research if you do have a play with this, or you're aware of this work already, or anything similar that comes to mind, or any kind of grief tending practices, ancestral grief work. I would be grateful to hear from you. It's a fascinating area, so do let me know if there's anything that feels that you'd like to share.